Hey, gals and guys, this is Michael Ferrari of Cinema to Meep. Welcome to the 60th bonus Patreon episode. Joining me today is no one. It's just me, little old Meep today. I wanted to do a special bonus episode that revolves around something that's not talked about too much in the world of horror. The fact that we all know that Halloween is a great time for horror. Look at me. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, I'm wearing a Halloween 3 themed shirt. I'll show it off a little bit. It's from Kinder Trauma. They made this a wonderful shirt. It's a mashup of The Breakfast Club and Halloween 3. I'm a big fan of Halloween 3. I'm a big fan of Halloween. And so this thing about Halloween is that for a lot of people, it ends, of course, on October 31st. It ends at midnight. For a lot of horror fans, though, it doesn't. It extends throughout the year. And part of this podcast was me trying to keep the spirit of Halloween alive a bit, keep it going into November, but also bring up this thing this myth that once October ends, horror kind of ends. And especially with regards to film releases. Not true. Horror has always been released, of course, historically throughout the year. We all know that. But in particular, November. November is a really interesting time for horror with releases over time. I was tracing back. I was just looking it up. Like, what else was released in November? I knew a couple of the big ones off the bat because I saw them in theaters. I knew Nightmare on Elm Street was a November release, and a couple others. Like, November. Yeah, it came out like a week or two after Halloween. How interesting is that? I'm not sure what the marketing was. Maybe for a lot of film releases, they thought October was crowded. Or maybe they wanted to keep that spirit of Halloween alive as well into November. It's cold, it's getting colder, it's still crisp, it's still autumn. And for a lot of us, autumn brings these horror vibes on. And so I noticed that there were like I kept researching more and more. There's a lot of these movies and titles that were being released in November. I'm like, what is this? What is going on? It's really cool. And something that I think it's pretty fun. Like, why not keep it going into November? Why don't you keep the ball rolling, right? We can't all see everything on Halloween, the day itself. For a lot of us, since growing up in the 80s, we do these marathons all month in October. That's great. That was, not really a big thing growing up. You would have like leading up, like the week leading up to Halloween, certainly on TV, they would do like marathons, but not so much throughout the whole month. So we've kind of claimed October as a month, and it's great. But why not November as well? Why not keep the autumn train going and have more horror in November? I just like that idea, and I like that. Over time, I found this to be true with film releases, which is great. So I'm kind of going to limit myself because there's a lot of, horror history goes back a long time, right? So I can be here all night talking about films released in November. So I'm kind of just going to 1970 through like 1999. So like a 30-year period of horror film, and just kind of highlight some of the ones that I like, talk about those more, just in general, talk about some releases. It's not a completely thorough list. I try to mark down as many as I could, as like 1, 2, 3.5 pages here. So there's quite a few releases, but there are definitely a few things that maybe had fallen through the cracks, like a lot of like the direct-to-video releases. I try to get a few of those in there, but it's hard to pinpoint everything that was released on video, especially in the 80s. It was a little bit easier to find some stuff in the 90s, but it's never going to be a completely accurate 100% list. That's just the way it goes with lists in general, but I try to mark as many as possible down with the research that I did, and I found quite a few good titles, which is great. So I'm just gonna do that today. Just talk about those things. I have some booze with me. I got Tom Atkins with me, so I'm raising a glass to him, raising a glass to you. No scotch today. I'm doing some rum and coke concoctions. Quite good. Yummy. So I'm gonna also, for the YouTube channel people, I'm going to be flashing up some physical media of a bunch of these, not all of these because I don't have every single title on here. But I try to pull as many as I could find on my collection. So it's not, again, but it's not going to be every single thing I'm going to flash, but I'm going to flash the audience with a DVD or a VHS or a Blu-ray, whatever I have of that title. But most of the cases, I'm going to just talk about the titles a little bit, or just mention them and the release dates. All November, everything's November, starting going back to November 24th of 1970. A TV movie. I happen to have a bootleg of it. It's hard to find. It was kind of a well-known TV movie at the time. TV horror movies are very big in the 70s, and I'm a very big fan of them. I just wish a lot of them were available. Over the last few years, some have been made available, like by people like Kino Lorber. Really, not many companies are putting them out. But I've noticed they've cooled on them since, which is a little sad. Hopefully sales, or I guess sales maybe are not that great on them. I'm not sure. But I urge you as Blu-ray collectors to, to look into these 70s and 80s TV movies, these horror-related TV movies. There's a lot of gems in there. And I'm a big fan of them. I grew up with them. I was born in 75, so some of these titles certainly were before my time, but if you guys remember TV back then, a lot of things reran quite often, and you'd have late night movies, and a lot of these TV movies happened to just run late nights, and I would be up late watching them. So I did catch an airing, like I don't know when, maybe like late 70s, early 80s of Crowhaven Farm, and I remember being really affected by it and being really good, and enough for me to seek out like a bootleg of it. And hopefully someone will put out legit release of it. It's never really been available. So it's just you need to have those. I don't know if cable companies are doing TV movies from the 70s and 80s anymore. I know they used to do that. Some channels would do that, but not anymore. I feel like these have definitely fallen through the cracks of time, and even as popular as some of them were back then. But starting it off with Crowhaven Farm, hopefully we will get a nice version of that at some point. That'd be nice. There's a movie called Black Noon, released November 5th, 1971. So I'm just kind of going from date order for the most part with these. And then in 1971, Howling in the Woods, from also November 5th, 1971. Revenge! Exclamation point. That was November 6th, 1971. Oh, a fun movie, Werewolves on Wheels. I don't have that one, but I remember that being pretty fun, pretty out there. That came out November 19th, 1971. Daughters of Satan, another fun movie. That's a November 1st, 1972 release. Super Beast, 1972, November 8th. It's a week after, no, November 1st. That was also the same day as Daughters of Satan, a big day for beasts and Satan. Silent Night, Bloody Night. I know I have that here. I have a crappy copy of it because there hasn't been really a good release of it, sadly. I don't know why. I think it's like a rights issue. It's fell into public domain for a while, but Silent Night, Bloody Night is one of the better Christmas time horror movies. Mary Warrenoff stars in it, and John Carradine. It's good. It's really good. It's quite good. I think a movie that would definitely be appreciated more and be regarded, put into the same like mention as Black Christmas and all the other 70s and 80s Christmas themed horror movies. It had a better release, had a better release of it. Quite surprised, and maybe it's an elements issue. I'm not sure, but it really deserves a great release. It's a really atmospheric mood piece, which is something that I love in 70s cinema. You could put it on like it's kind of reminiscent of like a movie like Messiah of Evil, that kind of mood. It's a very good wintry New England feeling town, that kind of vibe mood, and kind of wish it was made more available. I know someone put out like a little better copy, but as a download at some point. Um, Only because I guess they couldn't do it legitimately on a on a format like a Blu-ray or something. But hopefully, you know, hopefully will. It's quite a surprise. It's now turned. It's like 51 years old, so got to get on that. People are forgetting these movies over time, so let's keep them alive in the memories. Okay. And certainly Christmas time horror. There's quite a few, gonna be a few Christmas themed horror movies on this list because they were they were released in November to get people pumped for that time of the year. And we're in it now, as you guys know. Listening to this, I'm recording at the end of November, 2023, and Christmas season is here. I mean, whether we like it or not, it's here. It's there. It's like being advertised everywhere, shoved down some of our throats. Yes, but also, it's a month away, so Christmas is that kind of feeling and vibe is definitely in the air, and my house is a little bit decorated. So I'm certainly feeling that time of the year as well. I try to get some red lighting in here to keep a little bit of balance with Christmas and horror. In my life, a little try to keep that horror alive as well. And certainly talking about these movies helps me do that. It's therapy for some of the more G-rated aspects of Christmas, which drives me a little bananas sometimes, especially some of those songs. Yikes. So moving along, another TV movie came out in 1972, The Victim. This is one of the ones I was lucky enough to get a Blu-ray release from Kino Lorber. Now, Elizabeth Montgomery stars. I remember this being very good. It's a great cover that they did for it. I'm flashing it up to the YouTube channel people. So yeah, it's a great cover. I mean, a lot of these TV movies didn't have like actual artwork because a lot of them weren't released on any format. There's TV airings, right? So they did a good job with this one. It has audio commentaries, plural, and Elizabeth Montgomery TV movies. I mean, Lizzie Borden. I mean, she's a lot of great ones. So worth it for that alone. But also some of the better aspects of the movie. And it's also just a good example of the early 70s kind of vibe in TV horror. I like that. Okay, so yeah, they did like two or three releases, like a trilogy of movies from that time period. Two of these were never releases, so I'm going to talk about another one soon. But let's put that one away here. Okay. So the next one is Encounter with the Unknown, which was November 15th, 1972. I don't know much about that one. But November 16th, 1972, My Brother Has Bad Dreams. Now I have that on VHS. It's only been released on VHS. Cool artwork. Check that out. Florida horror, guys. It's as you could tell, clearly Florida horror. It's like Maniac vibes on the cover because it's kind of a Maniac kind of movie. It's like the kind of slasher movie. It's more from the killer's point of view kind of thing, and that turns people off sometimes. It's very much a 70s thing before it became like a full-on hidden killer slasher thing. There's a lot of like these psycho kind of riffs, and this is certainly that. And I remember it's actually a really good movie. It's interesting. It's definitely dark and disturbing, but certainly a movie that deserves a better release. I mean, VHS is, I'm glad I have it and I can watch it anytime, but maybe it's fallen a little bit out of consciousness because of that just being available on VHS. I think it's a good movie. It's definitely disturbed me. I know it has an alternate title that I kept. Oh my god! Even the cover says, "In the tradition of Psycho, if you thought Norman was crazy, meet Carl. He loves his mama to pieces." Yeah, and there were a lot of those. Especially certainly in the '70s, a lot of like Psycho rips and like Killing Kind was another one. But there are a lot of them are quite good too. Don't open the house. Don't go in the house. Rather, don't open the house. Don't go in the house. That's a really good one too. So if you like those kinds of movies, this is certainly one of the better ones. Um, yeah. Again, another movie that needs a release. Surprised no one did that one because I feel like it has some fans of like some dark, disturbing uh, movie fans would be into that one, and I think they would enjoy that. Vinegar Syndrome, maybe someone like that. Okay, November 17th, 1972, Asylum. I remember liking that one. I don't have it. Sadly, I think I have it on order from somewhere from Kino Lorber. They have a sale going on, so I had to partake. I know Asylum was one of the titles I wanted to order. Daughters of Satan. I think I already mentioned this twice, and maybe there's two different versions, but I have two different release dates for it. So maybe it's the two Daughters of Satan movies. Who knows? Dracula AD 1972. Gotta like those Hammer 70s movies. Sisters, Brian De Palma's Sisters. So, of course, everyone knows Sisters. If you're into horror films, you're into Brian De Palma films. Certainly, Sisters is a great film. It's released on the Criterion on Blu-ray. Great film. I've been a fan of this movie for a long time. It's got a Bernard Herrmann score. It's got De Palma kind of really coming into his own as a horror filmmaker. Here, it's this movie, one early example of what he was doing with horror. And Margot Kidder. It's got Jennifer Salt. It's got some good stuff in it, and it really sticks with me. Maybe it's the music, maybe some of the visuals, but De Palma really knows how to do that, to have images that really stay with you. And I think Margot Kidder's really makes it really memorable too. Her performances, you'd say, not to give anything away. But it's 30, 50 years later, right? It's the 50th anniversary of Sisters. You should see it if you haven't seen it, guys. I love it. Great film. Gargoyles. So that's another TV movie. I'm surprised this one hasn't gotten a release, but it was quite popular at the time too. Look at that. Some good stuff there. Cornell Wilde, the star of this one. And a gargoyle. Jennifer Salt again. Scott Glenn, Bernie Casey as the gargoyle of the title. It's really good. I know Amanda Reyes, the TV movie guru, she's a big fan of this one. She often sings his praises and talks about it. Certainly deserves a Blu-ray. Not sure what's holding it up. Maybe it's just hard to track down elements for these TV movies. Who knows? But certainly deserves it. Moving on, because we have a lot of titles to talk about. Home for the Holidays, not the Jodie Foster one, but this one. I have it on VHS. Hold it again up to the camera. It's an all-star cast. A lot of great actresses in this one. You can see Sally Field right there in the middle. They superimpose her image over the killer with a pitchfork. So this is like a proto slasher. As you can tell, it's a killer who's wearing a costume, wearing something to just disguise who they are, with a pitchfork. And then Sally Field. It's a family that gathers together for Christmas. Yeah, it's a Christmas movie. And Jessica Walter from Arrested Development, Eleanor Parker, Julie Harris, great Julie Harris, Joe Hayworth, Walter Brennan's dad. Really well done movie. I'm a big fan of this one. It's John Llewellyn Moxey directed it, and Aaron Spelling produced it. Joseph Stefano, the guy who wrote Psycho, wrote this one. It's got a real good pedigree behind it. It's one of those 90-minute TV movies they did back then, and it's so good. Some people complain maybe that it's not Christmassy enough for them, but I don't mind that. It's light on that, but to me, the Christmas stuff is the idea of these sisters gathering together and all the animosity and that bubbles up with when you're around family and the holidays. It definitely got that vibe, and I really like it. Talked about it before in this podcast. Okay. Crescendo from November 29th, 1972. The Satanic Rites of Dracula, going back to Hammer. The Severed Arm. This was, let's see what date we have here. This is going to 73, November 3rd, 1973. And The Severed Arm. So Vinegar Syndrome did put out this one in a cool artwork cover slipcase and artwork. It's pretty reversible artwork. Yeah, it's got some really cool artwork and extra features. Always like this one. Again, another proto slasher. A killer killing off some people who were stuck in a cave and then had to survive by maybe eating one of them, eating one of their own. And then the killer comes after them after they're rescued and kills them off one by one. It's really good. It's very 70s. I love that about it. And you can see the beginnings of like slasheries in this, and I like that about it too. Madman Herman, radio DJ. It's good. I like that one a lot. Pick that one up. I think it's on sale still. Vinegar Syndrome. Okay, moving on to The Invasion of Carol Enders from November 5th, 1973. Torso. I thought I had the Blu-ray for that. I guess I never picked it up, but I have a DVD of it somewhere. But Torso is a great Italian Euro horror. Also kind of like, again, proto-slasher thing, the giallo kind of thing going on that time period. I like that one. That's a really good one. That's a fun trailer. Arnold also recently came out on Blu-ray. I have that here, waiting from Vinegar Syndrome. Again, Vinegar Syndrome. It's like between Vinegar Syndrome and Kino Lorber, they're gonna save a lot of these movies. This was like a very anticipated movie to come out on Blu-ray. It finally came out after many years, so it's now available. I have yet to watch the movie. Sadly, it's a good reminder to watch Arnold. Been wanting to, so I'm going to set that one aside in my to watch pile. You stay there. Wanted to see that. Don't Look Now. I think one of those big titles from the 70s. Think of 70s horror. I think of Nicholas Roeg's Don't Look Now. I have this deluxe version from the UK. It's like several discs. It's a 4K. It's got a Blu-ray in there. And I know the Criterion also put it out on 4K, but I wanted this really deluxe set. It has artwork, it has a poster, it has globby cards. It's really cool. Got a book. And I mean, this is not the Don't Look Now poster, so podcast, so I'm not going to show you everything, but it's got a lot of discs, including a soundtrack. It's 4 discs here. A soundtrack. The score by Pino Donaggio is one of my favorites. I love Don't Look Now as a movie. I think it really haunts me, stays with me. It's Julie Christie, Donald Sutherland. Very well-known film, beautifully done. One of the best supernatural, ghost stories ever made. 50 years old now, released. Let's see, 73. November 1873. So happy 50. Don't Look Now. You're a wonderful film. I love you. Scream Pretty Peggy was the other one that came out with The Victim. There were 3 movies. This was a November release. November 24th, 73. Again, another one that got a couple of commentaries. It's got Betty Davis, so it's got a great cachet there for TV movie, having Betty Davis in your movie. Look at that. The knife in the cover. Really cool. Good artwork. They did a good job with these artworks. Not everyone does that. Good work with their artworks. For a long time, Scream Factory did the suckiest artworks. Arrow kind of does sucky artworks now. But Jimmy Sangster wrote this one. It's got Gordon Hessler directing it. Yeah, good stuff. Okay. We're halfway through the first page. Frankenstein, the True Story. That's a good TV movie. Released on Blu-ray from Scream Factory. There it is. Good stuff. It's an epic tale. The Frankenstein story. Okay. That was released November 30th, 1973. Okay, 1974, November 1st, 1974. A big one, guys. Phantom of the Paradise. So not only De Palma Sisters was November release, but also Phantom of the Paradise. It's also about two De Palma movies. Okay, this is that Scream Factory artwork, which is okay. Original artwork better. Showing that to the camera. I, of course, like a lot of people, love Phantom of the Paradise, one of my favorites. Horror, musical, whatever you want to call it. It's everything. And it's funny. It's got Jessica Harper. It's got everything you want in a movie. I love it. Certainly fans of movies and De Palma love it. And musicals. It's got everything you want. Should be in everyone's collection. It's great because it's Phantom of the Paradise. I'm sure they'll do 4K. Let's see. Blood for Dracula came out in November, guys. Of course, that's the Paul Morrissey, Andy Warhol. They called Andy Warhol's Blood for Dracula came out on 4K from Severin. It's great artwork there. Look at that. Great stuff. There's always been good artworks for these movies. Blood for Frankenstein, Blood for Dracula. Another 3-disc release as a soundtrack. It's got good stuff in it. Yeah, I'm a fan. I grew up with those movies. They played a lot. They played in theaters a lot too, especially in Times Square. So I remember them playing a lot. Both that and Frankenstein. Okay. Night of a Thousand Cats, another movie I've been trying to watch for a long time. It's not available. Would love to see it. All the Kind Strangers, November 12th, 1974, TV movie with Stacy Keach and John Savage. I have a DVD of it. It's kind of rare, I guess, now. It's a good movie. It's kind of been forgotten by time, but I wanted to mention it here. Okay, The Fury of the Wolfman, November 22nd, 1974. From Beyond the Grave, November 7th, 1975. Into the Damned, November 13th, 1975. Blood-Sucking Freaks, the deluxe Blu-ray of that. Or 4K, I'm not sure, but November 3rd, 1976, that's when that came out. I don't have it. Okay, another big one. It is a little movie called Assault on Precinct 13. That's right, John Carpenter's Assault on Precinct 13. John Carpenter making his first appearance on this November horror list. Now, you can argue that it's an action movie, but I think it's a hybrid of both. A lot of suspense in this movie. So here's that. Okay, that's another not so great artwork they did in the slipcover, but the original artwork definitely gives it that 70s grindhouse kind of vibe that was happening then. And it's a great film. It's super tense, got great score by John Carpenter. I love it. I mean, I watched it a lot growing up. I think it really just resonated with me, like that kind of the claustrophobic feel of being stuck in this situation, trying to get out of it. And that notion that even police aren't safe in this situation, they're just kind of cool. Yeah, it really stays with you too. It just really works. They remade it, didn't work, but the original, great film. I'm a big fan. Okay, Massacre at Central High, which did got a deluxe release too. I have it here too. I think Synapse put a deluxe Blu-ray set of this one. I like this movie. You can also argue it's not a horror movie or a teen drama thriller, but it has horror elements, so I think it counts. Look at that. Look at that. That's very slashery art there. It has that. It has those kind of makings to it. So yeah, I've always been a fan of it. It's an unusual movie. It's got a lot going on in it. Now on Blu-ray, deluxe Blu-ray from Synapse. And moving on to Alice, Sweet Alice, another great movie. Look at all these great movies in November in the 70s. They love it. Of course, another proto slasher. The great slasher movies ever made. Look at that. It's got a pretty good slip art they made for it. Quite good. And the original art, which is also pretty amazing. Love Alice, Sweet Alice. I've been to the locations in Patterson, New Jersey. It's got a poster in it. It's got a lot of great extras on this one. It's got some cards in here. It's got some stuff. A lot of extras. Love this release. 19, let's see, what is this? I have it written down as November 13, 1976. First came to screens, the silver screen. It's had a couple of re-releases, famously in the early 80s, which it really tried to sell it on Brooke Shields. And they called it Holy Terror. Because of course, Brooke Shields was very young in this movie. Her star had risen between 76 and 81, and they try to really market it as a Brooke Shields movie, but she has a small part of this movie, but it's so good. Paula Shepherd is the star, and she's great in this movie. Big fan of this one. One of the great movies of the 70s. Certainly a movie of its time, too, and really, even though it's like a period movie, it really feels like a 70s movie. Okay. So, one of those, like, when I get in one of those titles, I'm like, November, I knew this movie came out in November in the 70s. One of the all-time great movies. One of my top 5 horror movies of all time, guys. That is Brian De Palma's Carrie. Release date, November 16th, 1976. So just a mere 3 days after Alice, Sweet Alice, you got Carrie as well. How blessed were people then? How lucky were they? That's a better word. Carrie. I'm glad the original art is here in this 4K. Always best to have the original art, because it represents the time it was made, the ideals of when it was made, not trying to market into something new. It's what it is, the one and only Carrie. There have been many Carries since, but none of them can match up to the original, the one and only Sissy Spacek and Piper Laurie. Rest in peace, Piper Laurie. Gave a great performance. And Sissy Spacek gave a performance for the ages. Both deserved nominations, both deserved wins. Didn't get them, but they deserved them. And Brian De Palma did an amazing job with this movie. Let's not forget that adapting Stephen King, adapting this particular book was hard, considering its format. But he did a wonderful job as a screenwriter and bringing out the best elements of the book. And certainly one of Brian De Palma's most sensitive films, and really taps into something emotional that he doesn't often do. And there's a reason why it's become such a touchstone movie for a lot of people. Touchstone movie. It just resonates with all of us, and we hold it in high regard, and I certainly do that. It moves me every time. I love it. Okay, SS Experiment on a different level. SS Experiment came out the same day, November 16th, 1976. The Savage Bees, which I've never seen, but I want to. November 22nd, 1976. Bloodstalkers. I think that got a Blu-ray. November 23rd, 1976. Petey Wheatstraw. Came out November 13th, 1977, mixing kind of the blaxploitation genre with horror. Rudy Ray Moore's Petey Wheatstraw. The Pack. I have that on Blu-ray. That came out on Blu-ray this year from Scream Factory. Oh, the original art, which is good. Simple, to the point. Killer Dogs. Nature Run Amok. Eco horror. Love those kinds of movies. And this is one of the better ones from the 70s. Now on Blu-ray. Joe Down Baker. Okay, Magic. Jesus. A movie that really resonated with a lot of people growing up. That trailer really scared people. That really, um, even scarier than the movie. The trailer, that teaser. But Anthony Hopkins. I need to upgrade this to Blu-ray. I need to do that. And Margaret Burgess Meredith. It's got a great cast. And Richard Attenborough directed it. He's like, the guy who went on to do like Gandhi and kind of some boring, stuffy movies, but he made magic, and I like this movie a lot. Does it live up to the trailer? As good as the trailer? Maybe not as creepy or scary, but there's definitely a lot of moments in the movie that do it for me, and so I'm a fan. Faces of Death. The infamous Faces of Death came out November 10th, 1978. That's going to drive me to drink. I watched those against my will as a kid. The House of the Dead, November 14th, 1978. I won't go into why. It's just the House of the Dead, not the one you're thinking of. The Fifth Floor is a little movie that I like a lot. It was a good artwork too. This was the original artwork. I remember on the poster and the advertisements in the newspaper. Once the door closes here, it never opens. The nightmare started at the dance disco, and it never stopped from there. Imagine getting locked up in an institution, right? And when you're not really crazy, some good people pop up in this one. Paul Hopkins, it's got Patty Darmanville, Sharon Farrell, Mel Ferrer, Julie Adams. Just a lot of people in it. Robert Englund. It's good stuff. Kind of like a little no movie, but it's good. I Spit on Your Grave. Infamous movie, right? In the 70s. Came out November 22nd, 1978. Sorry, I'm not saying every release date, but you get it. They're all November. This was November 22nd, 1978. A week after Fifth Floor. Yeah, I Spit in Your Grave. The infamous. There's been like so many releases on Blu-ray of this movie. I'm not sure why. I guess I'm gonna keep trying to sell it different ways, but it's one of my grandmother's favorite movies growing up, so I had to watch this one a lot. Rented it a lot for her. And that big Wizard video box. Remember that one? Look at the cover if you're looking at the YouTube channel. That original artwork that's on here. This girl, not Camille Keaton of the movie, but yes. Who is that? It's actually Demi Moore. Yep, Demi Moore. It's been confirmed. Demi Moore posed for the cover when she was like a teenager, like 17, 18 or whatever it was. To make some money. Showing her a butt. You do what you can growing up and trying to get into the business, and that's what she did. And so it's not her, but became pretty famous after this movie. Yeah, I mean, it's an infamous movie for many reasons, and pretty powerful in its own way, but not for everybody. Certainly, I get it. The Bees, John Saxon, The Bees. The reason why I have it because it's John Saxon. Got a fun cover. A lot of bees in this cover. So the bees was November 24th, 1978. Okay, so our second John Carpenter movie, Someone's Watching Me. That's the TV movie he did. Came out like a month after Halloween in 78. It's really good. Lauren Hutton, Adrian Barbeau. It's a really good TV thriller. I like it a lot. I like Adrian Barbeau a lot in it too. I feel like she even needed a bigger role. She was great. Very memorable. Kind of a movie ahead of its time too. I like those kind of apartment. I like apartment horror in general, so this is a big I'm easy for those movies, and I know this is definitely one of the better ones. I like a high-tech apartment and someone seeing something they shouldn't be seeing, and then someone's watching me. They're watching me. That was November 29th, 1978. The Orphan came out November 79, before a movie it had an original title. The original title for this movie, The Orphan, was Friday the 13th, The Orphan. It's filmed in New Jersey, like, I don't know, half an hour, 20 minutes away, whatever. It was really close to the filming of, that's at the exact same time of Friday the 13th, 1979. They filmed basically simultaneously in New Jersey, near each other. They both had the same title. Eventually, the production of this movie gave the title to the Sean Cunningham movie. I mean, I don't know if they worked it out financially or what, but they get, they eventually let go of it. But in a lot of circles, and you see some poster artworks or artworks out there for it as Friday 13th, The Orphan. It's not really much anything like Friday 13th, the movie that we know. It's a period movie. It's like set in 1932. It's definitely a horror movie. It's really good. It's very atmospheric. Like The Other, you remember that one from the 70s? It's kind of similar to that one. I like it a lot. I have it on VHS. This Prism Entertainment, the big box clamshell Prism. I love them. Weirdly not available past the VHS. Past VHS is a good movie. Deserves a release. It's the last of the 70s movies that I have on that format. And then, oh yeah, I didn't pull it, but Human Experiments, November 16th, 1979. And the last 70s one is Salem's Lot, which I thought I had pulled because I have it, but anyway, Salem's Lot. Toby Hooper, Stephen King, another Stephen King movie in November. This time, November 17th, 1979. Iconic TV movie, vampire story. I affected a lot of people. A whole generation was kind of shocked by it and creeped out by it. And certainly I was, and a lot of other kids I knew growing up when watching it on TV. They were there fairly often, and those creepy kids and the eyes and just the window just really scared me. It scared a lot of people. I do consider it one of the best adaptations of Stephen King. It just kind of really works. Toby Hooper doing a great job with that one, and so I've always been a fan of it. So that closes out 70s. Let's get to the 80s. Well, we're still young, or not so young, Gray. We'll have to talk about the 80s. Okay. November 7th, 1980, The Boogeyman. Ooh. I have it, of course. There's a lot of 80s movies here, so I'm gonna have to hunt it down. Here it is. Vinegar Syndrome, put it out. Oh, cool artwork. Here it is, the original art. And 4K. Whoa, we went 4K on Boogeyman. You went all out. 4K and Blu-ray. Yeah, I like this one. It's it's kind of bonkers. Doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know. I'm not sure, but it's Louis Lamo's movies don't always do, but this one kind of just works for me. It's doing something right. It's like it starts off as kind of almost a remake or rip off of Halloween, and then it becomes something else entirely, like very supernatural. But Umi Lama was famous for like kind of riffing on things, and then goes off in his crazy directions. And Boogeyman certainly does that. Mirrors play a big part in this movie. And do a lot of horror movies, but certainly a good example of it here. Yeah, I love it. Love is a strong word, but I do, and I kind of love it because of what it does. It works for me. All right, I don't know if I like the artwork to this one on Blu-ray. I don't know. Maybe they're a better artwork. I don't know. But it's an early Vinegar Syndrome title. This happens to be maybe my favorite Christmas horror movie. Up there, probably. November 7th, 1980 brought us Christmas Evil. It's also noticed some other things like You Better Watch Out and stuff. But the artwork is not good. It's like I'm not sure what they were doing. But yeah, You Better Watch Out. It's also on there. John Waters has a quote on the back: "The greatest Christmas movie ever made." And he's heavy into Christmas, and he's even on the commentary. He has a commentary for this. It's quite magical, New Jersey horror. So I'm a fan. It's quite a magical film. Turns some people off maybe because it's from the killer's point of view, crazy person's point of view. But I think this hits the right balance between dark comedy, horror, satire, maybe fantasy, a lot of things. Has one of the best endings in any movie ever. I'm gonna put that out there. I love it. I really do. It really stays with me. Christmas Evil, November 7th, 1980. Big fan. I'll be watching it. I gotta leave that aside with Arnold because I have to watch that soon. Or like I try to watch it every year. This time of year. Virus came out November 10th, 1980. Alligator, other big one. I would consider a big horror movie because a lot of people remember Alligator. Look at that cover. It's kind of crazy. 4K from Scream Factory. Prefer the original art again. It's more subtle. So, the big alligator bursting through the cement, which he does in the movie. But it's, more low tech in the movie. But here, just alligator in the sewer, because that's what it is. Robert Forster, very memorable. John Sayles script. Louis Teague directed it. It's got a lot going on, a lot of going for it. It's just like a character study. It's an eco horror where nature runs a muck movie. It's comedy. It's got all the things you want in a movie, and a horror movie, and a fun movie. It's got Robert Forster as the lead. What more do you need? Alligator's great. And it looks great now on 4K. So thank you. Thank you, Scream Factory, for putting that one out. I think a lot of people have been waiting. We're waiting for this one to come out. It finally did. So November 14th, 1980. Great way to bring the 80s with Alligator. Moving on, Faces of Death 2, because one wasn't enough. November 10th, 1981. Dead and Buried, which I didn't pull, but I have it, of course, on Blu-ray. Another iconic horror movie from the early 80s. Gary Sherman directed it. Very atmospheric. I love Dead and Buried. It's a vibe. It's a whole vibe, that movie. And yeah, I could watch that one. I watch one fairly often. I feel like every couple years, maybe. It's kind of like just puts me in a mood. My wife's into it too. That was November 13th, 1981. Crocodile. So wait, you had Alligator, November 14th, 1980, and then 1981, 1 year later, you had a ripoff called Crocodile, November 18th, 1981. So that's how it worked. Something was, something broke through the concrete into the mainstream, and you had to rip it off. And certainly they tried. I don't remember Crocodile anywhere near as much as Alligator. Road Games, though, I do remember. So Richard Franklin directed Road Games. This is a great deluxe release, by the way, from Imprint Films. Great, beautiful cover. Um, so Richard Franklin, disciple of uh, Alfred Hitchcock. He actually was a protege of his. Um, Directed this. There's a lot of Hitchcockian flair but with a lot of attitude and personality. This movie, which is great. Stacy Keach and of course Jamie Lee Curtis in her early '80s horror cycle team up in this one. Look at that. The artwork on the Blu-ray is great. It is quite wonderful movie. Because like Alligator, it has like a vibe. It has like character study almost. So it's got an artwork. It's got a poster in here. Why should be hanging this up? Because I love me some road games. A two-sided poster. I'm going to show that to the audience. Look at that. Whoa. Jamie Lee, what are you doing? Amazing. We've got a book here. Jeez. Imprint Films, you went all out in this deluxe release, and I thank you for it. Pretty hefty book. Yeah, so it's got like a lot going on for it again, because it has that vibe where it's not just a horror, it's not just a thriller, it's character study. Stacy Keach kind of riffing and doing his thing and just kind of adding a lot to the story, and there's a lot to it. There's a lot of personality to it, which I love when movies could do that. Back when movies could do that, they allowed actors to have actors who are quirky or trained enough so they can add something to their role, which was nice. And they do that. I like the relationship between him and Jamie Lee Curtis in that movie. It's quite fun, playful. It's reminiscent of the rapport between Jamie Lee Curtis and Tom Atkins in The Fog. They kind of play off of each other really well in a kind of almost like a screwball comedy way. So Jamie Lee and Stacey Keach do that in this one too. Richard Franklin was smart to do that. So, Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker also came out. Let's see. Well, this was like 19. Well, no, yeah, around the same time. It's the same date, November 20th, 1981. At its first screening somewhere. So I have it. It has a double artwork. Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker, which was like the original title, but then it was retitled to Night Warning, which I best know it on VHS was that title. So I'm just gonna pardon my messages that pop up. Night Warning. Remember that VHS from like that that slip on there, that case. Yeah, I mean, Susan Tyrrell, Jimmy McNichol, Bo Svensson, Bill Paxton. It's super memorable film because of Susan Tyrrell. She's because of go for broke performance. So, but a lot of critics forget, they dismiss horror as bad acting, especially certainly movies that kind of go into slasher territory with bad acting. And there were a lot of movies with bad acting, but there were a lot of great ones too. And great performances. So, like people like Stacey Keach and Susan Tyrrell were kind of overlooked in their performances, but they were amazing in these movies. And she's so wonderful in this movie. It's so like crazy and believably so. And it's like maybe her performance is big like Piper Laurie's and Carrie, but that's what the perfect pitch for this kind of movie. And I think she plays it up for all it's worth. And I love that so much. She really goes for it. Love when an actor really goes for it. She does here. I can't praise her enough. Praises, and I think the movie is good. It's not like the best, like well-made horror movie, but it has a lot of great moments, and it works for me. And it's because of the performances. Let's see. Frankenstein Island, November 27th, 1981. Oh boy, another great movie. Stop making all these movies in November. Okay. November 27, 1981. To me, one of the best horror movies of the 80s. Just Before Dawn, and this ridiculously bad artwork that Code Red put out. Look at this. Anyway, ignore that slip. Here's the original artwork. more simple, more grindhouse feeling kind of works. I have a poster of this artwork too. Um, Jeff Lieberman directed it, and it's like again another horror movie that kind of goes slasher movie, full on slasher movie, backward slasher movie, camping slasher. That really kind of goes for it with the vibe and the atmosphere, but also has something on its mind too, which is nice. I think Lieberman also did that with Squirm and a few of his other films. Smart enough to do that. Some intelligent things going on in these movies. It has by the end of the movie, you'll kind of understand its almost feminist message, and I appreciate that. I think it's really, really good, and it's not often considered like top tier slasher, but to me, it is. It's up with the best of them. Love it. Time Walker, November 1st, 1982. Piranha 2: The Spawning, the James Cameron film that he was fired off of. Okay, this is one of the other ones, November horror, I thought of immediately. A little movie called Creepshow. That's right. George Romero's Creepshow, Stephen King, Creepshow. Them joining up for this amazing horror movie. I like this artwork better. And the slip was, pretty durable packaging, which is nice. But this Blu-ray, it's great artwork. So it's iconic film, Spawn sequels, Spawn TV series. But nothing beats the original. Not heavy into anthology horror, but this is my favorite one. I have two favorite anthology horrors that both released actually in November, so I'll get to the other one later. This is my top two. So my first one, so good, iconic movie, scared me as a kid, traumatized me, gave me a bug phobia. This and the shirt I'm wearing, Halloween 3, seeing those within a week of each other because they came out like basically within 2 weeks of each other. And I saw them within a week of each other, and in '82, and damn, freaked me out. Thank you, George Romero. Thank you, Stephen King, for that. I'll get my revenge. Alone in the Dark came out November 12th, 1982, so it's 2 days after Creepshow. You got Alone in the Dark, the Jack Shoulder slasher, or a little more than the slasher. Horror film. Better artwork than that slip. Kind of iconic artwork, right? It's almost like Maniac. You remember it. You'll remember it from the video store. So I talked about this movie on a podcast, the Hysteria Continues podcast. I went on to talk about Alone in the Dark a few years ago. Look that one up if you're interested in hearing me yammer and blabber about Alone in the Dark for like 2.5 hours, but I love it. It's so good. Another horror movie, kind of what might have been deemed at the time as a throwaway slasher, is not. It's well acted. It's got something on its mind as well. It's got dark humor, near satire. It's really good. I love it. Thank you, Jack Shoulder, for making that movie. And some New Jersey horror too in it. So that was November 12th, 1982. God, another iconic 80s horror movie was released right after that. Let's see, I'll put these closer together. As many stacks. So here it is. The first one, Sorority House Massacre, I have the 4K here, came out in November. We have it as November 12th, 1982. So it's the same day as Alone in the Dark. Big day for horror movies. There's a few of them coming up. This iconic Roger Corman produced horror movie, written, directed by women. Well done, very well done movie. Birthed an iconic killer and just that real fun, the fun tropes of early 80s slasher movies are all played out to their max in this movie. And very feminist point of view because not because it's pushing ideals down your throat like what you would assume a feminist movie would do. It's not that kind of movie. To me, the most feminist statement is to a woman to make a movie just as good, a movie that's as kind as a man would. It's where it's invisible. It's not. It doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman directing, right? It's although injecting a female point of view is awesome too. So I think that movie does that. It gives you a slasher movie that a man could have directed very easily, and most of them did do at the time. Very few women were allowed to make these kinds of movies. Roger Corman didn't care. He just wanted a good movie. That was weird. Something popped up on my recording while I did that. Thumbs up. Um, maybe the computer gave me a thumbs up. Well, if you're listening, thanks for the thumbs up. Um, so Roger Corman, thank you for doing that. Thank you for giving these filmmakers a chance to tell their story, to make a fun movie. That's the bottom line, right? Fun movie became an iconic horror movie, spawned sequels, remakes. Super fun. I love it. Okay. Not just that one on that day. That's the second one from that day. Also November 12th, 1982. Silly movie, because you have to have silly movies too, right? Why not? We had a kind of a fun one there. Silly, over the top. Blu-ray somewhere. It's hiding. Anyway, it's called Wacko. Wacko, where are you? I know I pulled it. Then no, it disappeared. Anyway, Wacko is kind of a slasher spoof. There were quite a few slasher spoofs in the early 80s, and Student Bodies was one of them. Wacko, in this case. It's silly. Graydon Clark directed it. It's pretty over the top. Oh yeah, there it is up there. Let me go grab it. Okay, got it. Wacko. Look at that. So pretty silly for like these kinds of spoof comedies. This might be for you. Went home for that. Hope you more. There. So, yeah. Okay. So moving on. I Desire was also that week on November 15th, 1982. Another great movie, slasher movie of that era, came out just a week later. The House on Sorority Row, November 19th, 1982. I love this movie. One of the better examples of early 80s slasher movies because it injects some personality, gives you everything you want in a slasher. Beautiful score, one of the best scored slasher movies ever made by Richard Band. So beautifully scored. And fun. Got some fun artwork. There were wise to include the original artwork and then also an alternative artwork for it that was made. Yeah, that's great special features. MVD put out this one. I like their releases. They also do like posters. So there's a poster in here too of the artwork, which I love that. And they're fairly reasonably priced too. So MVD, you're the MVP of these kinds of releases. Thank you, MVD. I like the video store vibe, of course, with the trying to give you like a VHS vibes, which is nice. I love that. Trying to get you stacked. Okay. All right. Cue the winged serpent. Cue the winged serpent. And I can't find it, but it's here. I'm hating this. Wait. Hating that I can't find it because I know I pulled it. Here it is. Cue. Cue the winged serpent. Larry Cohen. There's a couple of Larry Cohens. That's the first one. Cue the winged serpent. He's a winged serpent. Love Larry Cohen movies. Q is a fun, really fun one. Um, you've seen it, you know it, you know how much fun it is. Michael Moriarty. Always great to have in your a Larry Cohen joint. And that was, let's see, that was November 19th, 1982, same day as the House on Sorority Row. How lucky were we as audience members? Inseminoid, November 30th, 1982. That's a crazy one. Night Beast, November 30th, 1982. Another wacky one. Amityville 3D came out in 1982. Actually, 1983, November 18th, 1983. So 30th anniversary of this crazy movie. I have the box set, but I'm holding up the 3D version that I have here from the UK that came out several years back. I just held on to it because I like the packaging and I like the artwork, and it has 3D glasses. It has commentary that it's not on the Screen Factory. It's good stuff. PG horror, crazy PG horror. A lot of stuff happens in it for PG horror. I love that. It's fun. I like a fun sequel. The Being, November 18th, 1983, was a Jackie Kong movie. Jackie Kong, one of the few horror directors of the 80s, from female horror directors of the 80s. Um, Made this one. It's pretty wacky. It's pretty out there. That artwork. Pretty crazy. Martin Landau. Um, Cross Country came out the same day, November 18th, 1983. This is a big day. I have that on VHS. It only came out on VHS. So Paul Lynch, the guy who directed Prom Night, made this movie. Consider it a thriller, dark thriller with horror elements. Kind of a road trip movie. It's good stuff. I think the artwork is cool. Look at that on the YouTube channel. Um, that deserves a Blu-ray. I don't know why that one's they're sitting on that one, but who knows? Sleepaway Camp, guys, iconic 80s horror slasher, was released the same day, November 18th, 1983. Iconic artwork. So a lot of great slasher ones were released. Holiday horror, sleepaway camp horror, yeah, all kinds of horror. Eco horror, lots of fun 80s horror. And of course, Sleepaway Camp is one of the most fun. Crazy, bonkers 80s slashers that spawn sequels. And I love it. Nothing beats the original, of course, because it's hard to duplicate what makes Sleepaway Camp 1 so work. I don't like that clip art, but original art is always best, and this one's no exception. But yeah, I've talked about this movie plenty. So recently I was listening to the Mick Garris podcast, Postmortem, which I think is wrapping up soon. He's retiring from it, but anyway, I was listening to the Eli Roth interview, and on there, the Eli Roth, who's hawking Thanksgiving, his new slasher. Well, first off, he went on to brag about his new movie, which I get, which you have to sell your movie, but also how great of a director he is. He mentioned that many times, how he's achieved mastery level, which I thought was kind of funny. But also, he went on to say how he's got to single-handedly save November horror. Okay. I mean, the box office since I haven't seen the movie yet, but the box office of that one, hasn't really said that it's going to save horror. So so just words and his feelings. But what annoyed me about the interview, besides all the bragging about how great of a director he is, um, was that he said that historically speaking, that November was a desert for horror movie. Now I had this idea for this podcast before I listened to that interview, but it was kind of like a light bulb. Like, really, really, Eli, I mean, you could look up dates and know that some of these iconic horror movies were released in November. But he talks a lot. Not sure he put in much thought into that comment, but as we know, a lot of great movies so far have been released in November and more to come. So, say a pretty good month for her in general. All right, moving on. So we went from sleepaway camp to go back to eco horror, from nature runs amok kind of movies. Here's a good one. Where are you? Are you getting away from me, you little creep? Okay. One of my favorites from turned 40 years old, of unknown origin. Peter Weller versus a rat movie. Love it. I went to go see the house that it was filmed at in Montreal. Well, at least the exterior of the house. Montreal, Canada. I was there recently. And took a snapshot of the house that's set at right in the middle of the city, which is amazing. Yeah, I think it's supposed to. It doesn't say if it's Canada the movie, but I think they try to allude that it's New York, though it's clearly Montreal. I love it. George P. Cosmatos directed this, and the guy went on to make like Rambo and Tombstone. Great, great director of action. Made this horror movie, Man versus Rat. So good, love it so much, and yeah, good release on Blu-ray. Um, Huge fan of that movie. See, Razorback, another wow, a lot of like horror, animal attack kind of horrors came out. I didn't open this one yet, but Umbrella Entertainment put out a Blu-ray, like a deluxe Blu-ray of it. I upgraded my DVD. I have to crack into the extras of this one. So Razorback, you'll remember from the 80s, is Outback horror. It's good. That might be the watch list. Okay. All right. Okay, the other iconic horror movie I thought of immediately for November, I mentioned the title earlier, but of course, Nightmare on Elm Street. Wes Craven's Nightmare on Elm Street was released November. In this case, November 9th, 1984. So like a little week after horror, Halloween. But, the first and second one were released in November, actually. So this part two came out November 1st, 1985. First one came out November 9, 1984. So like a year within each other. You got two Nightmare on Elm Street movies. November horror. Love it. Okay. Transylvania. No, going a little ahead of myself. Gosh, another iconic horror movie came out in November. Here it is. Here it is. I want to drink some more. Silent Night, Deadly Night. Slip. Get back to the original art. Beautiful. Perfect. Santa climbing down that chimney with the axe, going to carve some people up who are naughty. He's going to punish. Iconic 80s slasher. Controversial because Killer Santa, blah, blah, blah. We love it. Anyway, it's, sleazy. It's notorious. It's Silent Night, Deadly Night. And it came out in November. Right? And that's caused a stir, obviously. November 9th, 1984. It had the unfortunate thing of coming out the same day as Nightmare on Elm Street. which, was reason enough for it to get lost in the shuffle, but then all that controversy on top of it. Um, what else there's to say? The Silent Night, Deadly Night. There are a couple more coming up. The Silent Night, Deadly Night movies, iconic, and with good reason. Now, one of my all-time favorite movies came out a week after that. A movie that I loved in the theater. Love it to this day. I still watch it a lot. I watched it with my family not too long ago. And that is Night of the Comet. So November 16th, 1984. This wonderful film. It's a 4K here. Came out. Catherine Mary Stewart, Kelly Maroney, science fiction, horror, comedy. Got it all. Everything you want in a movie. One package. The perfect movie. Perfect 80s movie. Night of the Comet. I love it dearly. Seen on the big screen since the 80s. I saw it for the 30th anniversary. That was almost 9 years ago. That was 9 years ago. It's 39 now. And it looked wonderful. And now here it is. Was it 30? Did I see it on the 30th anniversary? I guess I did. Might have been. No, it was Chopping Mall 30th anniversary. I saw it the 30th anniversary of Chopping Mall 2016. It double featured with that. This was the second movie. I love both, but I even love Night of the Comet more. Great times. That was a great screening with my friend Demetrios Batsiaris. If you're listening, Demetrios, hi. We had a great time at that screening. Okay, and that was in LA. The Egyptian. Okay, and November 16th, 1984, another one that day. Another Larry Cohen movie. This one's special effects, one of our more lesser known, quirky thriller horrors. Very New York. I like it a lot. He made it two back to back. This one and Perfect Strangers. I like a lot. Zoe Tamarellis, Eric Bogosian. It's got a kind of a darkish vibe, but it's not like the usual Larry Cohen comedy that he injects into it. But I think it's really good. Very New York, very downtown New York, which I'm a fan of. That's special effects. Zombie Island Massacre came out the same day, November 16th, 1984. What Waits Below was November 19th, 1984. Then November 23rd, 1984, slasher movie, The Prey. The cover's weird. I don't know if that really matches the movie, but Arrow video to that. I think I prefer the original VHS artwork that's on here. This Blu-ray. The Prey with the axe sticking out of someone. It's not human and it's got an axe. I'm pretty sure it was human and I don't think it had an axe, but that's The Prey. This is the one that's kind of notorious for having a lot of nature footage in it, but I kind of like that about it because why not? Why not have nature in your movie, in your slasher movie in the woods? I like all that stuff. It was November 23rd, 1984. So, famously, a Halloween movie was released on November 1st, 1985. Day after Halloween. Keep that Halloween vibe going the day after. The Midnight Hour, one of my all-time favorite TV movies, came out November 1st, 1985. Love it dearly. Horror comedy, more teen comedy, but horror, clearly set on Halloween party movie. Love it to death. It's like PG horror as a TV movie, but it's wonderfully done. It's very charming. A lot of fun young actors in it. And sadly, only on DVD. Never made it past DVD. It's an iconic movie. I think DVD is worth a lot of money now because it's out of print. So there's clearly clearly a need for this on to be available again. So hopefully whatever rights issue or whatever's going on with it can be untangled and we get some midnight hour back into the mainstream, because I think if this was available, I don't think it's streaming. I think this was available, or it might be on YouTube, but I'm not sure. I think it would be on everyone's watch list every Halloween because it's that much fun. And it's got fun music in it. This movie introduced me to the Smiths. Funny, huh? TV movie in the early mid 80s. Okay, yeah, I mentioned Nightmare on Elm Street 2 that came out the same day. Hotel Transylvania 65. My Hotel Transylvania. That's the kids movie. Transylvania 65000. That's what happens when you have kids. November 8th, 1985. Confessions of a Serial Killer, November 14th, 1985. Another comedy horror. Once Bitten, one of my favorites. This one here in this double feature came out in 85. November 15th, 1985. I love it. Watched a lot. One of my most watched 80 movies. 80s movies. That's even possible, but it's true. Watched it a lot. I watched Weird Science and Once Bitten on heavy rotation in the 80s and late 80s. Rented them a lot. I could just flash back right now to 1986, going to the video store and renting it. Seeing it in the theater, of course, in 85, but renting it in 86. And then renting it again and again and again. I love it. Jim Carrey's hilarious in it. It's great. And Lauren Hutton again. Terror at London Bridge, November 22nd, 1985. I always wanted to check that out. I think I watched it when it aired, but I need to see that again. Well, a movie that I think deserves more love came out in 85 or 80, 85? Yeah, 85. Maybe I didn't pull it, but I thought I did. Oh no, I thought I did. Anyway, it's called Fortress. And it stars Rachel Ward. It's an Australian outback thriller / horror about a school teacher who's basically abducted with her classroom by these masked killers and masked crazy guys, and scary, super scary. And it really stayed with me. I'm still looking, sadly, for the DVD because I just want to really highlight this movie because it doesn't get nearly enough love and mentions. I'm not sure why. It's a very powerful film and it really works for me, and I love it. So if I ever find the VHS or DVD rather, I'll make sure I flash it or just highlight it in some way because I just think it's such a great movie and needs to be seen more. Fortress, not the Christopher Lambert sci-fi movie from 92, but 1985, HBO put it out. It aired on HBO. That's when I first saw it in 85. And that was November 24th, 1985. That's when it aired on HBO. Devilfish came out on November 14th, 86. Neon Maniacs. Here it is. Well known in horror circles. Needs better release. I don't know why I don't have a Blu-ray of this, but November 14th, 1986. Crazy San Francisco horror. Has some cool looking effects and creatures in it. That was 86. And then Slaughter High. Okay. Slasher. Holiday horror. April Fool's Day movie. So if you're a fan of those movies, this is the movie for you. I'm a fan. It's one of those movies that I actually didn't like growing up. I was not a fan of it. I thought it was bad. I thought it had all the adults in the movie looked like they were 45 years old or 40 years old at least. At least that seemed really old to me because they were playing like teenagers in the early part of the film and early 20 somethings in the movie or whatever it was. And like I can't buy into this at all. It's so bad. But now all the things I didn't like about it I find really charming. That they're old and they're playing young people, and they're getting killed off in these disgusting ways and um, fun ways. Yeah, I try to watch it every April 1st. Yeah, I alternate like which ones I'm gonna watch, either this or April Fool's Day or Killer Party. Those three are the big uh April 1st movies. And so some years I'll watch this, and some years I'll watch the other two. Most of the time I'll watch April Fool's Day or Killer Party because I feel like those are two of the best. But every once in a while, every other year, I'll throw this one in. And Vestron put it out on Blu-ray. That's great. All right. Going closer down the list here. The Wraith. Did Vestron also put that one out on Blu-ray? So that came out November 21st, a week after Slaughter High. You got The Wraith, November 21st, 86. You all know The Wraith, kind of iconic 80s movie. Sci-fi, horror elements, Charlie Sheen, scary. Sherilyn Fenn, Nick Cassavetes, Randy Quaid, a lot of people in it. It's a good cover, like the original art. Cool car movie. And Dead Time Stories came out November 28th, 1986. Fun movie, mythology horror, theme song, a lot of fun, sticks in my head. Howling 3, November 13th, 87. Possession, movie called Possession, not the Isabella Johnny, came out November 18th, 1987. Flowers in the Attic, of course. Memorable 80s horror. Flowers in the Attic. It's become like they made a lot of Lifetime versions of this, right? Of the V.C. Andrews stories. But this is the original first V.C. Andrews. And my favorite. Love it. Artwork I always like that artwork. Just like simple. But takes the book to the screen. And it was a very big book in the 80s, and it's a lot of copies. 40 million copies, right? And it came out in 79, but then throughout the 80s it kept getting published, and this movie came out. And it was fun. New World Pictures. I loved it. I've talked about this podcast before, so I'm not gonna go too far into it. So that was November 20th, 1987. Honeymoon came out November 20th, 1987 as well. How come that hasn't come out on Blu-ray? That deserves one. The Wind with Meg Foster came out. And Wings Hauser came out November 25th, 1987. The Video Dead came out. I have that somewhere as a double feature. Somewhere out there. Here it is. TerrorVision and The Video Dead. So The Video Dead is the one that came out November 30th, 87. Silly movie. All right. Getting closer to the end of the 80s. So much of this is the 80s. Black Roses, heavy metal horror. I have a DVD of it that came out November 1st, 1988. Cool cover. Only been released on DVD from Synapse. I'm surprised I haven't got a Blu-ray of this yet. Okay. Hide and Go Shriek, another slasher. Came out November 1st, 1988, same day. Department store horror. I like that. I like when people can find in places like that. That's fun. It's a fun movie. It's like lower tier like slasher and not as well acted or whatever, but I like it. It has a charm to it. And I like those kind of settings in movies, like Initiation, set in there. Ooh, Initiation, that's a good Christmas horror. I gotta remember that. Yeah. I like the kind of setting. Career opportunities and Target. I like those kinds of things. The Brain came out November 4th, 1988. Here's The Brain. You'll remember that from the video store, maybe. IVE, I think, put up the VHS. I remember that. This Blu-ray is by Scream Factory. Silly. I remember liking it. Canadian horror. Decapitation by Punch, Teddy Bears Crying, Tears of Blood, Divorced by Chainsaw, fun little sci-fi movie that keeps you entertained, says 80s Horror Central. Okay. Sci-fi horror. Okay, so two iconic movies in a row coming up. Jesus. November 4th, same day as The Brain, 1988, John Carpenter's They Live. I mean, what else to say, right? The iconic They Live. Love it. It's on the theater not too long ago with my son, who loved it as well. Loved it in the 80s, still love it. Holds up even better now. The other iconic movie, November. I remember very well coming out in November, a week after Halloween. November 9th, 1988. Child's Play. Chucky. The original art. So yeah, Chucky came out. The original Chucky came out in November of 88. Winter horror, you could say, right? Feels like winter. I love Child's Play. Not much more to say about that. Spawn franchise that's still going strong. Um, but the first is such a perfect movie to me. It's like 88, 89 minutes long. It goes by quick. It's fun. It just gives you everything I wanted in that kind of movie, the late ages horror movie. And I've seen that in theaters since the 80s, and it holds up so well. It's so perfectly done and edited. Tom Holland. He was on a roll in the 80s. Dial Help, November 10th, 1988. Ghost Town, November 11th, 1988. I remember that. High Spirits, November 18th. So more comedy than horror. November 18th, 1988. I saw that theater. It's a Neil Jordan movie, believe it or not. Here it is in the right. Kind of a silly movie, but really good actors in it, like Liam Neeson, Jennifer Tilly, and a ton of people. Peter O'Toole, Steve Guttenberg, Beverly D'Angelo, Peter Gallagher, and Daryl Hannah. It's like a lot of people in it. And it's charming, funny. Not LOL funny, like hysterically funny, but yeah, I like it. Low key. Good. Let's see. Amsterdam came out November 25th, 1988. Death by Dialogue, November 25th, 1988. And then my second favorite anthology horror tied for first. After Midnight. Love it. Blu-ray came out by Scream Factory. It's just really fun and fast anthology horror. I think what I like about Creepshow and even more so After Midnight is that all the stories, anthology, all of them are fun. They don't have like a really weak entry like a lot of anthology horror movies do, but they're all just like a blast to me, at least. More low budget horror, but I am into it. It's well done by the Wheat brothers. They directed it. They were like screenwriters at the time. They had some famous kind of script doctors. But Mark Helgenberger, Mark McClure, Pamela Segal, among some of the people in the movie. But yeah, I really like it. Watch it. I'm sure it's streaming. The Phantom of the Opera. That's the Freddy Krueger version, as we called it then. I'm sure he wasn't that happy about, but Robert Englund, was in this movie in this version. And I like it. I think it's good. I think it's fun. And Dwight Little directed it. He did Halloween 4 and Mark for Death. It's a good director. And I used to sort of like Big Brother kind of situation to this kid back then in the late 80s and early 90s. And he was obsessed with Phantom of the Opera, the musical on Broadway. He had a ton of it in the memorabilia. Went to see it a few times. So I'm like, okay, I'll show you Phantom of the Opera. I made him watch this one on VHS, and he loved it, of course. But his mom did not love that. That's why I got in trouble. But he was happy that I got him to watch this. I don't think it's that bad. It's gruesome, right? Because it's the late 80s horror. But it's like in that kind of like, gooey, ooey gooey, latex kind of way, not too like, you know, not too like bad that it's like just scar you for life or anything. I don't think it ever did. I don't know. I don't know him anymore, but hopefully he appreciated that interest into that. Wherever you are, Johnny. Let's see. So that was November 3rd, 1989. The same day, Stepfather 2 or Stepfather 2 Make Room for Daddy came out. I like the sequel. It's a solid sequel to the first movie, which I am a big fan of. And I like this one. Yeah, I think it works because it's Meg Foster, but also because um, Tara Quinn came back to reprise his role. And he does a really good job with it. He doesn't let it all hang out like he did in the first movie, literally. But yeah, he does a great job here. Continuing that psycho character. But yeah, I get it. Communion, November 10th, 1989. The Toxic Avenger, Part 3, November 24th, 1989. The Eyes of the Panther, whatever that is, November 26th, 1989. And The Dead Next Door, November 28th, 89. There's so much. Psycho Cop. So that came out November 28th, 1989 as well. That's the last one of the 80s. All right, the 90s will be quicker. So we got Spirits, November 1st, 1990. Frankenstein Unbound. That's Roger Corman's last film as a director. Came back to direct this one. I like it. It's not something I revisit a lot, but it's well done. It's like beautifully done. Cast, everything. It's good cast. That's a good way to go out as a director. And you know what? Roger Corman's still with us as of November 2023. That's amazing. What a spirit he has. All right. And then, let's see, so going into the 90s there now. Jacob's Ladder, November 2nd, 1990. I mean, same day as Frankenstein Unbound. Iconic horror movie. Adrian Lyne directed. I don't like this cover, but on this Blu-ray, but should just go with the original art. It just it's filled with this imagery that sticks with you and atmosphere, of course. And Adrian Lyne was the perfect director for this movie. You know, he's not a horror director. Sometimes a non-horror director coming into the genre kind of mixes it up and makes it interesting. Because they're bringing some, like, especially a visual stylist like Adrian Lyne is kind of an interesting choice. Tim Robbins, of course, in this movie, and yeah, just like it's become like it's become an idiom. It's become an iconic film. You know, it's like a Jacob's Ladder situation, right? We just said when these kinds of movies and endings happen, but I love it. I think it's really good, really well done, very solid. It always sticks with me after I watch it. So it gets under my skin, which is what a good horror movie should do like that. Child's Play 2. I didn't pull that one, but Child's Play 1, Child's Play 2 is a really solid sequel. And I've talked about it on this podcast. Just really holds up well. That was November 9th, 1990. Another sequel, Psycho 4, The Beginning. Yeah. So, the weakest of the four, but I like it still anyway. Mick Garris directed this one. Not a bad way for Anthony Perkins to go out with the character. I think what maybe the weakest part is the wraparound or the element of the talk show host calling in a talk show host to explain his life story. I'm not sure if I like that. I think that's a little weak in the movie. Like, so maybe it detracts me from, or just like maybe why I don't go to high. But it's nice to see Norman's backstory to some degree, I guess. I don't know where else they could have taken it after 3, because 3 is such a cuckoo movie that I love so much. Before tries, and I like what it does in some things, and it's because Perkins, he makes it work. Let's see, Disturbed, November 16th, 1990. Predator 2. So Predator 1 was a big summer movie. Predator 2 was in November, or I don't have the standalone, but I have the part of the this set. It's 3-movie collection with Predator, Predator 2, and Predators on Blu-ray. I don't know how I feel about Predators. I can't remember. I only saw it once. It was okay. I think I felt the same way about Predator 2. I'm a big fan of Predator 1. Maybe that's why Predator 2, I'm like not as I know for people they love it. But because I'm such a big fan of the one, maybe that's why I've always rated it a little bit less. So I don't know. I keep saying I'm gonna revisit it, so to watch. But I do like it. I remember it being kind of like sweaty LA movie. Okay. Silent Night, Deadly Night 4, The Initiation. So, the set of Silent Night, Deadly Night movies. Four, we got two, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, or we got two. Now, this one has 3, 4, and 5 because 2 is separate from this. But it's a fun set. Vestron. Talk about those movies at some point. I should. Faces of Death 4, November 28th, 1990. I just love November and Faces of Death movies, I guess. It is another iconic horror movie. Came out in 1990, November 30th, 1990. Misery. That's right. Stephen King's Misery. Rob Reiner's Misery. Kathy Bates' Misery. James Caan Misery. It's, hey man, what else to say? It's like so beautifully done by Rob Reiner. Beautifully written. Cast. Perfectly cast. Love it. Kathy Bates won an Academy Award, deservedly so. Not a lot of actors win Academy Awards for playing horror villains or just being in horror movies. It's always looked down upon, but Misery is a horror movie through and through, and she's wonderful in it. It's so good. I love it. I love Misery. That's why I have it on 4K. Makes me chilly thinking about it. It's so cold. Wintry. Let's see. The People Under the Stairs, November 1st, 1991. Another Craven movie. I'm craving this Blu-ray. It's 4K. It's a really good one. I love me some People Under the Stairs. I love Wes Craven. And this is no exception. Really good movie. Okay, what do we got? Sundown, The Vampire Retreat. Sundown, you better take care. I've got this Blu-ray down my back there. Vestron Collector's Edition. It's a good edition. Sadly, we lost the director of this movie since its release. Really sad. But he did a great job. It's an unusual movie. Directed by Anthony Hickox. It's well cast. It's a hybrid horror western. Got a lot of things going on in it. It's got Maxwell Caulfield, David Carradine, Morgan Brittany, Bruce Campbell, Judd Metzler, John Ireland. A lot of people kind of pop up in this one, little roles. They're performing and popped ups in it. It's unusual and works, really works because of its weirdness. Saturday Night Daily Night 5, so that's another one. Love and Murder on November 8th, 1991. Killer Tomatoes Strike Back, November 14th, 1991. Dead is Dead, November 10th, 1992. Bram Stoker's Dracula, November 13th, 1992. Of course, famous Coppola horror. I mean, it's definitely style, very stylized. Some say more style than substance, but I get it. Coppola was going all out on this one with the look and hires the best possible people he can do to make these movies to make them look a certain way. Killer Tomatoes Eat France. Another Killer Tomatoes. That came out November 18th, 1992. The Neighbor, November 3rd, 1993. Psycho Cop Returns, November 8th, 1993. So both Psycho Cop movies were in November. They Watch, November 14th, 1993. Man's Best Friend, was November 19th, 1993. So happy 30th anniversary to a favorite of mine from the 90s. Man's Best Friend. It's Ali Shee and Lance Henriksen in this killer dog movie. Nature Ran Amok. Mad Scientist movie. Right. Poor dog. It's like he didn't want to do this, but they drove him to it. I really like it. It's a lot of fun. I try to watch it every few years. I watched recently, earlier this year. Just a blast. Holds up well. Truly holds up well. Puppet Master 4 was November 24th, 1993. Full Eclipse, another Anthony Hickox movie. November 27th, 1993. That's a werewolf movie, but it's almost like an X-Men movie. It's kind of weird. That was November 27th, 1993. Frankenstein. So you had Coppola's Dracula 92, and then 2 years later, in 94, you had Frankenstein. That was like Kenneth Branagh did, I think. November 4th, 1994. Not as successful. And then a week after that, an iconic, bringing back a classic car character, an iconic 90s horror movie, I would say. Interview with the Vampire. November 11th, 1994. Of course, that was a sensation. It was a very popular book at the time. And the casting, of course, was set off a lot of alarms with Tom Cruise playing Lestat. And then, of course, Brad Pitt. So you had like all the hot actors at the time. Anthony Banderas, Antonio Banderas, Christian Slater, Stephen Ray. Neil Jordan directed it, the guy who did High Spirits. But of course, The Crying Game and a few other great movies. But I like it. It's since spawned a TV series, which I remember enjoying the first couple episodes of. I need to go back to. But I like Tom Cruise in the movie. I know it caused a ruckus then because they felt like he did not match the character, and I get it. But he's having fun. It's kind of a hammy performance, but I think that's the point. The Paperboy, which is a from Hell movie. Killer Paperboy from Hell. I'm a fan of this kind of movie. I like this one. November 16th, 1994. Republic Pictures put out the VHS, Canadian horror. It's got William Catt in it, and Alexander Paul, and a kid who doesn't like him. We'll stop at nothing to get to Alexander Paul. What a creep. I like it. Needs a blue. Watchers 3 came out November 16th, 1994. The Kingdom, the Lars von Trier one, came out November 24th, 1994. Castle Freak, the Stuart Gordon picture, came out in 95. November 14th, 1995. I like Castle Freak. It's not like Reanimator good, but it's a fun telling of a H.P. Lovecraft kind of thing. Right? Is that what it's based on? Maybe not. But it's like, yeah. It's going that way with that cast, right? Barbara Crampton's in it, and Jeffrey Combs. That's why I'm confusing it with Reanimator, but yeah, I like it. Zythro 3 came out November 14th, 1995. Rumpelstiltskin came out November 24th, 1995. Voodoo, November 28th, 1995. Bad Moon. I wanted to highlight that. That's a werewolf movie. It's a fun one. Eric Red directed it. He's the guy who wrote The Hitcher. He did Body Parts. 91. He wrote Near Dark with Bigelow. Anyway, I like this movie. Check it out. It's worth it. It's fun. It's like 80-something minutes long. 79 minutes long. So short. To the point. It's silly. It's fun. It's got fun werewolf stuff in it. I like that one. Bad Moon. November 1st, 1996. That's what it came out. Adrenaline Fear the Rush came out November 29th, 1996. Almost done, guys. Jack Frost, not the Michael Keaton thing, but another horror movie. The Killer Santa or Killer. It's late. Killer Snowman. That's what I'm trying to say. November 18th, 1997. Alien Resurrection. It was bound to be an Alien movie on this list. November 26th, 1997. Not the good Alien movie, though, unfortunately. The Landlady, November 10th, 1998. And then you got a slasher sequel in November. Why not? Slasher, summer slasher in November. I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. Kind of makes sense, though, that it's November, because it's a movie about a group of young people who stupidly go to an island and get duped into it. I think Jennifer Jason Leigh gets tricked into going on a free trip off season, of course. So it's like when it's past summer, it's like off season in the Caribbean, and of course hurricane season. And so they're tricked into going to this island, and of course hurricane, and it's like all this bad weather, and then they're stuck there, and of course it's the Mr. Gordon's fisherman's back, and he's got his hook, and he's gonna kill them off one by one. Another one of those movies I wasn't that crazy about when it came out, but now I think it's a blast and fun. So much so that I got the 4K. It's crazy, but I did. It's fun. What more do you need, right? I think I pulled out a mistake. Okay. And then I'll just read off the last few. Retro Puppet Master. So that was November 13th, 1988. That came out on Friday 13th. I remember that. 1998. Retro Puppet Master came out November 9th, 1999. Sleepy Hollow. That's a Coppola production, Tim Burton film. That came out in 1999. November 17th, 1999. End of Days. Oh, I think I have to pull that. That's Arnold Schwarzenegger horror. This is like he did at the tail end of the 90s when he had his heart attack. And yeah, his kind of image was like a little bit tarnished, I guess, because of that. Or he was a little like unsure, like unsure. If people were unsure, like how he could recuperate, but he came back swinging, and he did a horror movie, and it's an apocalyptic end of the world horror movie, directed by Peter Hyams, who makes fun, dark movies, like dark visually, which I think is fun. Yeah, I like it. I might watch it. I might watch it at the end of this year. I'll leave that out for New Year's, because it's like a New Year's movie. And then Phantom of the Multiplex. This is 2000. November 10, 2000. Out of the Dead. November 14, 2000. Blood, the Last Vampire was November 18, 2000. And finally on a seasonal horror movie, Jack Frost 2 was November 21st, 2000. Oh, that's 30 years of November horror. A lot of titles we talked about. Lots of stacks of movies here. Let's see if I can pull them together so I can get a shot of them, but so many movies, guys, that I just rattled off. And a lot of fun movies, and a lot of iconic movies, and a lot of movies that you should be seen, continue to be watched all these years later. But I'm just going to do this for the YouTuber. So yeah, there's a bunch of movies that I was pulled, and my shelves are a little bit disarray because I just was pulling stuff earlier. But yeah, all those movies, November horror, lots. It's a lot of movies. Thank you guys so much for putting up with me talking about these things. We'll be back again for more retro movie love, whatever it might be. I know I need to do my 30th anniversary of 1993, so look out for that. Thank you guys for subscribing to the YouTube channel. That's Retro Movie Love on YouTube. Thank you for supporting Patreon. That's patreon.com/Retro Movie Love. Thank you for Oh, if you checked out me on the $2 late fee podcast, thank you for doing that. That's $2 late fee. I did an episode on Tough Turf. I wanted to go on. They invited me on to talk about that movie, knowing I'm a fan of that one, and that was a lot of fun. So look out for that podcast. That's Tough Turf on the $2 late fee podcast. It's a retro podcast as well. I'll be on another podcast in January. Somebody invited me on. I'll talk about some movies there. I'll put out the details on Instagram, on Cinema to Meep and Retro Movie Love, all the details for that. So look out for me there. So Facebook, Retro Movie Love podcast has a Facebook page, but you can find my personal page on Facebook. But reach out to me on Instagram too, Cinema to Meep. I've been posting lots of things on the stories. Don't forget the stories on Instagram. I do daily polls. That's been a lot of fun doing that. So remember to follow that page and look at the stories and vote in those polls. Those are fun to do. Get to highlight a lot of movies from my collection, which are great. Get more Meeps video out there as possible. Yeah, that's about it. That's all for housekeeping. Thank you again for everyone. I can continue to raise my glass of scotch. I hope you can enjoy horror all year round and take some of these November horror movies into your life. If you need a list of all the titles I talked about, just send me a message on either on Instagram or Facebook or Retro Movie Love at gmail.com, and I'll forward you the list of all the November horror movies, so that way you can have a full list of what I've talked about today, all the titles I rattled off, the 30 years of that. It's fun just to do something like this, a little different, mix it up. We'll be back with business as usual coming up in December. Hopefully I can do some maybe holiday themed stuff. We'll see. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for everything, and I'll talk to you soon. And here's to more love and movie love. Take care. Ciao for now.
I never knew it'd be so easy. Been on the case for quite a while. She drove me home, we skipped the party. Who guessed that she'd be mine? Oh, it was unbelievable. Oh, if I only knew how you could be so unbelievable. It's beyond me that I'm beside you. I recollect my adolescence and all the words I kept inside. Those days are gone, now in my flashback I'll call you up to say goodnight. It's unbelievable. Oh, if I only knew how you could be so unbelievable. It's beyond me, now I'm beside you. Oh, it's unbelievable. Oh, if I only knew how you could be so unbelievable. It's beyond me.
Hi, I'm Tommy.
Shut up, you idiot!
I'd like to be hugged. 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 I'd like to be hugged.
Hug
I'd like
this.
To be hugged. I'd like to be hugged. I'd like to
Eat dirt, Tommy!